going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Getting ready for the holidays and thought I would talk to you guys today about some very, very common mistakes that defendants make while they're out on pretrial supervision getting ready to be sentenced. We'll talk about that in a few minutes as we'll let some of you join and get into the chat room. The chat room. That's what I call it. I call it the chat room. It's like AOL chat room back in the 90s. But yeah, guys, so I'm just going to give you guys a few minutes to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I received actually a phone call from a viewer last night, that just got sentenced to 71 months, I think. I've got it in here somewhere. 71 months. And his offense level was a 25. So 71 months was the high end of the guidelines. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to join us. So we're going to talk a little bit about what he did to prepare and how that possibly could have ended up causing him maybe a little more damage than he needed. So we'll give everybody a few minutes and then we'll jump into those topics. Meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy my coffee. Bonnie, hello. How are you? Don't forget, guys, take this moment. If you haven't done so, make sure you go ahead and tap the thumbs up. Give me a like, subscribe to my channel. Look, there's a little bell right next to the subscribe button. Do me a favor. When you press that bell, it gives you the option to receive notifications. Make sure you have that on or else you probably don't even know when I go live. Obviously, those of you that are watching right now do know. Hey, Tamara, what's going on? Tamara is one of our awesome clients. Her and her son, well, not her, but her son. But all my communications pretty much been with Tamara. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Thank you, Tamara. I'm definitely looking forward to the holidays. In case you can't tell, Shelly started to do a little bit of decoration in the house, getting started. So I love the holidays. I don't know about you guys. Even when I was in prison, I really enjoyed the holidays. My favorite holidays are Thanksgiving, Christmas. Those are probably my two favorite. Those are very much together with your family. Tear Talk. Hey, what's up, Tear Talk? We got Tear Talk in the room. He's a correction officer with a YouTube channel. You guys should go check out his channel because he's got a completely different perspective on, the prison system. And obviously his perspective is, and I want to get more of your story from Anthony. His name's Anthony Ganji. And Anthony's got quite a story. I believe, were you a correctional officer, Anthony, if you're still in the room? But I know you worked in the prison system as some sort of administrative level. But I think Anthony and I could have a really, really interesting conversation because, coming at it from two different ends of the spectrum, but neither one of us has any interest in saying that the system is completely broken to the point where all guards are bad and all inmates are out to get the guards. I think we can come to a middle ground on there as to what each side could be doing differently or what maybe each side is currently working on to kind of bridge that gap. So I'm looking very interested to the conversation that Anthony and I are going to have in the near future, and hopefully either he'll come on my channel or I'll come on his channel, or a little bit of back and forth, middle of the road. There we go. That's what I like to hear. But yeah, it's got really cool content. I've watched I've actually been watching you for a good solid year now, you and a couple of other guys. There's another guy, I think he's a cop, or maybe he's a guard too. Blue Shield or something like that. But yeah, there's a bunch of really good YouTube channels popping up out of the blue lately. And some are jokes, some are just fun, interesting content. Some of it's just for entertainment purposes. Others of us are more interested in putting out content that's useful for somebody going through a situation. So I'm not expecting to get millions of subscribers with my content because it's not the most entertaining content unless you're probably getting ready to head off to federal prison or state prison, something of that nature. What's going on, Connor? I'm actually going to be doing an interview with Connor on Tuesday. I think we rescheduled for Tuesday. Connor's got quite the story he's been through. He's denounced himself from the Aryan Brotherhood, and he's going to be going to prison, and he's going to be sharing his story on our YouTube channel. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Who else we got in the room? Did I miss anybody? Bonnie? All right, cool. So let's kind of kick this off. So yesterday I got a phone call. It wasn't the best phone call, so I'm not going to share the name or any specifics other than this person received a 71-month sentence. This was Yeah, I would say he's more on the white collar defendant side of things. He definitely has money, definitely committed some white collar type crimes. But nonetheless, I still think he's a really good guy that just made some mistakes. And we're going to leave that part at that. So he had never reached out to me prior till yesterday. As a matter of fact, just like it says in the description of this, he had actually been watching another YouTube channel from another prison consultant that posts on some sort of a regular basis. And I'm not going to mention his name either, because there's definitely some bad blood there. So we're going to leave that part out of it. But he had been watching this other prison consultant's YouTube channel, and he told me that he felt like he had done everything he needed to do to prepare for sentencing. He took a plea, and his base offense level, after everything was acceptance of responsibility, everything else, he was at a level 25. And level 25, the high end of the guidelines on a level 25 is 71 months, which is what he was sentenced to. Now, he thought he had done everything that he was supposed to do, or what he could be doing to mitigate. Now, we all know you can do whatever you want. You can go till you're blue in the face. You can do everything right. And at the end of the day, the judge has the power to sentence you to what they want to sentence you to. So there's no saying that this gentleman would have received a different sentence if he had done anything different. But when he told me that he had prepared, what's going on, Marianne? When he told me that he had prepared, I asked him, I said, okay, so watching this other guy's prison consulting channel, what is it that you did to prepare? And I started asking him some questions. I said, okay, so you said you prepared, but that's such a general statement. Let's go and dig into some details. So I said, what have you been doing? How long have you been on pretrial? He's been on pretrial for almost 2 years. So indicted roughly 2 years ago. He's been on pretrial the entire time. He says, well, I've been staying out of trouble. Okay, that's good. I've been reporting on time. I've had no dirty UAs. I've had no misconduct with staff, no misconduct with my pretrial officer, my probation officer. I've done everything I was supposed to do. I said, okay, so what else have you been doing with your time? What have you been doing for work? First red flag popped up in my mind. He said, well, I can't work in the industry that I was in. I said, is it because of your crime? And he was a pharmacist, so he said, yes, it's because of my crime. So nonetheless, we know that his crime had something to do with what he was doing as a pharmacist. So I said, how come you haven't been working? He says, well, I can't get a job in the field that I was previously in. I said, well, you're probably never going to be able to get a job again as a pharmacist. And he's like, yeah, that's part of my plea agreement is that I can't go back into this field. My licenses were taken away. I said, okay, so what are your plans to do for work when you get released? He's like, well, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. I said, so for the last 2 years, you haven't maintained a job? And he said, well, I've got money. I don't really need to work. The feds didn't take everything from me. Some of the money was a lot of the money was legitimate money. I said, okay, so you haven't been working because you don't need the money. And you've been watching another prison consultant's YouTube channel. I said, yeah. I said, you never came across, this prison consultant never recommended that you should maybe be maintaining work to some extent, even if it's a completely different field. I don't care if you're taking quite the pay cut, but to show that you're being that you're being a productive member of society, that you're looking to give back to this community that you had taken advantage of, which got you into the situation to begin with. He said, well, on top of not needing the money, I also wanted to spend more time with my friends and family. I knew there was a good chance that I was going to be going to prison, so I wanted to really use this time to spend as much time with friends, family, go see people that live out of state, travel as much as I can before I start my potential sentence. That's understandable. There is a balance. You do want to be able to find time to spend with your family, explain things to your family, explain things to your children. Maybe you've got some elder relationships with other family members in other states and you want to have time to go travel. But within 2 years, I would think you would have some time to kind of balance that out also with working. I said, well, before we go any further, it seems like to me that maybe you should have had a job this entire time. Obviously, we can't go back and change anything. You've already been sentenced. So there's really nothing you can do about that now. But do you see how having a job could have played a difference? No. That's what he told me. No, I don't think that would have made any difference. Okay. So that was the first bumping of the heads where, you're not going to change somebody's mind that doesn't want to be changed or isn't ready, or maybe just in denial because he's already been sentenced. So the last thing you want to do is admit that you made mistakes and you could have done things differently. So the next thing was, I asked him what he had been doing to actually prepare. I said, well, how are you engaging with your attorney? How are you holding your attorney accountable? Well, I hired the best defendant, the best criminal defense attorney in my area. He used to be a prosecutor. God, if I had $1 for every time somebody told me their defense attorney used to work with prosecution or was the prosecutor or used to be a judge or whatever, I would not have to do this as a career, because I would have tons and tons of money in the bank for every time I heard the statement that my attorney used to be a federal prosecutor. I said, okay, your attorney was a prosecutor, so what have you been doing? And he's like, well, I already told you. I've been staying out of trouble. I did everything I'm supposed to do, and I feel like the judge just had it in for me. I mean, maybe the judge did. Maybe the judge was making an example out of you. We just had another client that was sentenced that also was a pharmacist. He received a much shorter sentence. I think it was 14 or 15 months. He was looking at probation. There was even a recommendation of probation, but the judge did make an example out of him. And this client's completely at terms with that, because our client had completely prepared, done everything within the scope necessary that he could have done to put himself in the best possible position. So a 15-month sentence in his mind is a victory, because that's going to be short-lived. Now, a 71-month sentence, on the other hand, what could he have done differently? So first off, he wasn't working the entire time. And I can tell you, I've seen it many, many times where defendants that are not working, whether it's white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter. If you're not maintaining some sort of job in the job market, this can reflect very poorly on you, because as the judge sentencing you, and the judge may ask you, the judge may not ask you, what are you doing with your day-to-day? This may be in the sentencing memorandum. This may be some information in the PSR. The judge may ask you, may not ask you, but I can tell you the chances are it will play a role. So working is huge. Asking him how he's held his attorney accountable, there was zero. There was zero from him. And I said, well, again, you told me that you've been watching this other prison consultant. What information have you gathered while watching this person on how you should be interacting with your defense attorney? And he said, well, whenever my defense attorney needed something, he called me and asked me. I said, okay, how did you prepare for your pre-sentence investigation? He said, well, my attorney told me we were going to have the meeting with U.S. probation after I took my plea. I said, well, okay, so of course you're going to have the meeting. You're going to do the PSR, but how did you prepare for the PSR? This guy was quite irritated, and he stopped and asked me, he says, well, what do you mean? How did I prepare? Well, what did you actually do? What steps did you take? What information did you bring to this interview with you? Well, I didn't bring anything. My attorney had everything. Well, what did your attorney bring? He didn't have an answer. He did not know what his attorney brought. He didn't bring anything with him. So, I mean, obviously not everybody does their personal narrative and includes that into the pre-sentence investigation. So I already knew not to ask him that, because it was already very evident that he had not done that. When you guys are preparing for sentencing, everything you do can make a difference. Preparing for the PSR, the pre-sentence investigation, I really think most of you don't understand how important that is. So much so that we've actually created a possibility for you guys that aren't sure what the PSR interview is going to be like. We have a mock version of a PSR that you can completely fill out. It's going to be basically identical to the same documentation that the probation department is going to give you, where it's going to ask for your financials, history. It's going to go over everything. And with our clients, we go through this with a fine-tooth comb to the point of you can use this form and actually hand it to your probation officer and say, look, I know all the information you're going to ask me. I filled this out ahead of time, and it's presented, it's typed up, it's not handwritten to some extent where you can't read it. And it's a lot of pages, guys. I don't know what you think the pre-sentence investigation entails, but it's, even though the conversation may only be 5 or 10 minutes, there's a lot of information that they are going to require you to provide: bank statements, financial affidavits, things on background, family, personal history, substance abuse. All of this information, if you aren't well prepared on how to answer this information, A, you might leave something out that's very important. B, you might think you should leave something out because you think it's going to hurt you, like maybe conversation about your substance abuse. The information is typically, it's so vague that people give because they don't know what information to give. That 99% of the defendants that we work with, when they fill out the pre-sentence investigation report that we supply them with, and it comes back for review, it usually has to be completely redone. And that's okay, because that means there's a lot of things that you're not aware of that your legal defense hasn't brought you abrupt onto, not because they don't want you to know this stuff, but because maybe they don't realize how important this information is going in there, or they're just so overworked or overwhelmed that they have other things that they're focusing on, the personal narrative. So when I started asking about his letters, he said, that's the one thing I did get from the other consultant's channel I was watching. I think my letters were amazing. I said, well, why do you think that? I said, first off, who wrote letters for you? This guy went in, if this guy had 50 letters, he had 100 letters. He had so many letters that he submitted. And these are letters from colleagues. These are letters from other business partners. These are letters from political individuals. And I'm just sitting there thinking in my mind, man, this guy has no clue. And I'm wondering how many people out there right now watch some of my videos and watch some of other prison consultants' videos, and they also are thinking they're going in the right direction, but clueless. It was so hard to listen to, because I guarantee you there's a portion of this that he probably dug his hole. He came off to me so cocky and had it all figured out in his mind. And the one thing he kept coming back to is, I don't understand why the judge sentenced me to such a lengthy sentence. And I wanted to say to him, do you think there was any opportunity that maybe you did this the wrong way? Maybe you could have done it differently. Doing it over again. And I asked him, I said, did you consider hiring this prison consultant? No. I asked him, how come? He said, I don't feel like there's anything he could have offered me in addition to what I saw from his videos. I said, well, I can tell you right now that the consultant that you watched, because I know who the consultant is, he would have given you different advice on your letters. He would have given you different advice coming to your pre-sentence investigation. And he definitely would have given you advice on what you're doing with your career at the time. What you write about in your personal narratives and your character reference letters. I asked him, had you reviewed the letters? And he started to say yes. And then when I said, so you reviewed every single one of these letters? And he goes, well, my attorney reviewed them. Okay. How do you know? How do you know your attorney read through every single letter? How do you know the judge read every single letter? It's a lot of letters that you submitted. Guys, there are so many mistakes that people can make, not intentionally, and they might think they're doing all the homework, and they might think that they've did all of the background and their due diligence. And I'm not saying they haven't, but you're going into uncharted territories. And if you think you do not need anybody else's help to solve some of your problems, that's a major mental roadblock that you're going to deal with long beyond this. If you're this far into the point where you're getting sentenced and you do not think there's anything you can be doing differently, what are you doing with your time? How are you being viewed by the court? Do you look like everybody else? Do you look like everybody else that's going through this? Or are you doing things that potentially could impact you to make better choices? And what do I mean by that? Hey, got the dogs going crazy in the background. Oh, there's CJ. So when you are viewed just like everybody else, and the problem is a lot of defendants, specifically white-collar defendants, nonviolent offenders, first-time offenders, they think that they're being compared to murderers, rapists, child molesters. They think that's who they're being compared to. And they're going to go, well, the judge is going to see that I'm not like that. So why would the judge sentence me to the high end of the guidelines? Or why would the judge sentence me to prison at all? Guys, I'm telling you, and I'm talking to you right now. So if you're watching this video, I'm probably talking exactly to you. There is nothing special about what you're going through. You are completely in the same category as everybody else that is getting sentenced, because the judge sees a million people just like you every single day that are first-time nonviolent offenders, whether they're white-collar defendants or just people that were in the wrong place at the wrong time, made some simple mistakes. So you need to start identifying yourself as, okay, how can I appear differently from everybody else that looks like me? So everything that this gentleman did that I spoke to last night, he looks like most of you. This is how most of your letters would typically come out if you didn't have any guidance. Most of you, when you hire your attorney, you're putting a lot of hope and expectation onto your attorney that your attorney is going to lead you through this and do everything within their power to make sure that you have the best possible outcome. That's the problem, is that's not typical. The average attorney, yes, they care, but the average attorney just does not have the wherewithal of how important some of these aspects are. Tomorrow, I'm having an amazing meeting with the Federal Defender's Office here in Washington, for Eastern Washington, that deals with Washington and Idaho. And I'm going to have an opportunity to speak to federal defenders on what they can be doing differently and how they can interact with prison consultants, on how some of the aspects of what we actually focus on can make a difference. Those of you that think, well, I can't hire a prison consultant, I can't afford, $3,000 to $15,000, $20,000 based on whoever you're going to hire. We have solutions for you guys. If you have your personal narratives written, if you have your character reference letters written, and you just want to get some feedback on it, guys, you can submit them to us. We have a service just to review your letters, give you some feedback, give you some pointers that if you are in a financial grind, it's going to cost you something, but it's going to be far less than what it would cost to retain us as your consultant. But if you just need some guidance on that, maybe you want to know what should go into your pre-sentence investigation. Maybe you want to know how you should fill out this report. Again, we have reports that you can fill out that we can give you some additional guidance on, give you some pointers. You're going to have to put the work in, but we can tell you what's wrong with it, what should be added to it, and then you can make those necessary changes, and this is what you can present. Make sure you do your best to do everything you can be doing. Don't find reasons to justify why you shouldn't get help. Don't say to yourself, well, I think I have it all together. You're going to be the one that's going to prison. You're going to be the one at some point likely will be laying in a bunk wondering, is there anything I could have done any differently? And I can tell you this guy right now, he's probably watching this video. He says he subscribed to my channel yesterday. So if you are subscribing to my video, I know this might be hard for you to hear right now because you're in a very stressed out situation. He received the highest part of the guideline he could have received. 71 months was the max on a base offense level of 25. 71 months was the max. Now, the judge could have gone higher than that, could have gone above the guidelines if he wanted to. But in my opinion, the judge definitely made an example out of him. And these are things that are truly avoidable. At the end of the day, there's only so much you've got control over. But how you interact with your day-to-day, those of you that are on pretrial supervision, take that as a blessing and realize that there's so much that you can be doing to generate the best possible outcome in the best possible situation. He's completely not going to qualify for RDAP. I asked him, I said, is RDAP in your future? And he said, well, yeah, I'm going to try to take the program. And when I went over it with him, I said, well, when you had your pre-sentence investigation, was there any context going into that talking about your substance abuse? 20 years ago, he had a DUI. And he said, well, I read online that if I had a DUI in the past, I can qualify for RDAP. I said, well, there's some truth to that. When was your DUI? 20 years ago was his DUI. I said, okay, beyond the DUI, is there any information in your PSR that talks about substance abuse or alcohol use or drug use at all? No, I don't suffer with substance abuse. I said, you don't drink? He goes, well, I mean, they're referring to drugs and they're referring to hardcore this and, I'm not a drug addict. I said, okay. I said, I get it. I understand what you're saying. No one's calling you a drug addict. And he got a little defensive again. I said, look, and I don't want to be the Grim Reaper here, but I mean, I'm trying to tell this guy, you need to take this a little more serious because if the only thing in your PSR is a 20-year-old DUI and you have other drinking that's taken place prior to your indictment within those 12 months, you may want to talk to a substance abuse professional and get this added in because you're going to be denied for RDAP. You're going to get your good time. You might get some additional halfway house time. Then he said he already qualifies for Second Chance Act. I said, okay, that's what his attorney told him. I said, yeah, you and every other non-violent first-time offender qualifies for the Second Chance Act. Why are they going to give it to you? Well, if I qualify for it, wouldn't they give it to me? I mean, these were his responses this late in the game. And I'm just like going, man, you would have been a perfect candidate for a prison consultant to help you. You could have afforded it, no doubt. He could have afforded the high-end prison consultants. He could have easily afforded 15, 20 grand. But he did not see the necessary steps in taking that. He thought he had it all figured out. And guys, you don't. I don't care who you're going to hire. I don't care who you're looking towards for information, resources. There's a few prison consultants out there. You guys know who they are. Some of them are better than others. Some of them offer something valuable. Some of them offer very little value. There are some good consultants out there. Just because we don't all get along doesn't mean at the end of the day they don't have interest in putting forth good services. White Collar Advice, Michael Santos, these are guys that we may not always get along. I may not see eye to eye or agree with everything that they do, but they offer services that can benefit people. There's some other ones that don't. and we've done videos on them. So you really have to just do your homework. At the end of the day, you're the one responsible. There's a reason why there's so many 2255s for ineffective counsel when people get into prison, because they start learning of all of these things that their attorneys could have educated them more on, but because you're not taking enough interest to educate yourself and do your own due diligence, now that you're in prison, now all of a sudden you want to do all of these things that you could have done because you see it happening for other people. You see other people moving from their unit, going into RDAP, finding out they're getting a year off, and then they're getting a year of federal halfway house, and they're like, man, I've got a shorter sentence than this guy, but yet he's going to get out sooner than me. It's all about preparation. Do your homework. Do your due diligence. Realize that you don't have all of the answers. So really, that's all I got for you guys today. I wanted to share that because it's, coming up on the holidays. A lot of you are super stressed. You don't know exactly what to do with your time. Holidays are holidays. They can be extremely stressful when you're dealing with this. I've got a client self-surrendering on December 26th. It's got to be really hard to enjoy Christmas when you're thinking about the day after I got to self-surrender. But sooner you get it started, sooner it gets over. And that's what we're here for, guys. We are here to help. Federal Prison Time Consulting, people helping people, community is method, one day at a time. That's our motto. I hope you guys found this information useful. If you do, make sure you give a like to this video, subscribe. Also head over to our website. There's a link in the description of this video if you want to leave us a review on Facebook. The more you guys can spread this word, the more information gets out that can help somebody else. So even if you made some horrible decisions, don't be one of those people that said, well, if it didn't work for me, I don't want anybody else to get anything good. If you guys went through the program or you're near your sentencing and there's things that you didn't do that you wish you had done differently, share it in the comments of this video. Send a message because your story could be a cautionary tale to help somebody else. And I'm telling you, it's like when you see a penny on tails. Everybody says, don't pick up a penny on tails. You know what you do with that penny? You flip the penny over and you leave it on heads. So the next person that finds it gets the good luck. It goes around, comes around. Do something good, even if it's not going to benefit you in this immediate moment. That's what I'm going to leave you guys with. So sharing is caring. That's all I got. I love you guys. I will see you guys very, very soon. If I don't talk to you guys the next couple of days, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy next week. And we've got a live video coming up with Connor on Tuesday. All right, guys, take it easy. I'm RDAP Dan. Have a great day.